And we are live. It is 2:06 p.m. Central Standard Time in the United States, 8:06 p.m. GMT in the UK. It's the Nomad Tech Project with Sam and Joe.
Hey.
Coming to you live this 18th day of February 2024. And we are San's guest. We did have Zach Talks Tech lined up. Unfortunately, he is under the weather and cannot make it. So get all the wells and hope he hydrates and feels better and medicate and rest and fluids and all that good stuff. And hopefully we can reschedule him at another point in the not too distant future.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking forward to Zach. He's a great guy. So get well soon, mate.
Yeah, so he sent me a message late last night. You were way asleep. It was like 9:30 or so, and he just sent me an email. He's just like, hey, man. Well, first of all, I get a declined on the calendar. And I was like, okay, that's weird. Then he sent an email right behind. He says, hey, I didn't even do the stream Friday night or Thursday or whatever. I didn't do my regular stream, and I was supposed to go today because that's why we moved ours up to kind of he does a Sunday stream as well. And he's like, dude, whatever I've got, it's beating my butt. So I was like, nah, no worries, mate. It's all good. So it's cool. So it's just Joe and I. So anyway,
time of year.
I guess. Yeah, I guess it's pretty much always that time of year. Seem like everybody says that in the wintertime. Oh, it's going around. It's like, isn't all things going around? Don't you always get a cold?
It's always going around.
I guess there's flu seasons, I guess, like hurricanes, but I don't know. I would think that if you get sick, it's probably just because you probably caught something from somebody else. And not necessarily
how it happens.
Instead of just being February, for that kind of thing.
So it's Valentine's the 14th as well in the US, it is, right?
Yeah, it's the same day. Yeah.
Actually, this Valentine's Day this week for you.
Yeah,
did you do much?
No, and the funny thing is this year, actually, Ash Wednesday was on the same day. If you're Catholic, which I'm not, I was until I got older and decided to stop going just for personal reasons. I don't know. It just was weird. I always felt like I got drugged to church as a kid. I never really got into it that much. So as I got to be an adult, I kind of stopped going. So anyway, I was raised Catholic. So that was Ash Wednesday. That happened to be the same day as Valentine's Day this year. I guess that happens every once in a while. So
did you have any pancakes Tuesday?
No, I don't know.
Shrove Tuesday.
I don't know what that is. Is that a Catholic thing or is that just a British thing? I don't know. I never pancakes on Tuesday before.
I'm not religious, mate.
Okay.
Let's look it up quickly.
Yeah, never heard of that. Shrove, Shrove.
Shrove.
Yeah, Shrove Tuesday, the first day of Carnival. It's February 13th. Oh, okay. Yeah, it's Mardi Gras. Okay, yeah, Mardi Gras. Oh, okay.
Is it Mardi Gras?
Yeah, it's fat. That's what Mardi Gras means in French. Fat Tuesday. All right.
Oh, Mardi Gras. Oh.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I never heard it called Shrove Tuesday.
Yeah. Pancake Day.
Yeah. It's beginning of Lent. Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I never heard it referred to that before. That's kind of cool.
Do you not have Pancake Day? No.
I guess we do. I just never.
I love pancakes, man.
It says the concluding day of Carnival or Shrovetide. So, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Which is funny because then when you click on it, is a Christian festive season that occurs before Lent, consisting of Shrove Sunday, Shrove Monday, Shrove Tuesday. Okay, so all right. So it kind of sounds like like Good Friday, Holy Saturday, right? Those kind of holy, Easter Sunday. Okay, yeah, it's cool.
All I care about is the daylight eat,
Right. Well, you can get pancakes any day, but hell yeah, let's just do it on the Tuesday before Mardi Gras or before Ash Wednesday. That's cool.
Yeah, I can eat them any day, but it's mandatory that day.
Right.
Whether you like it or not.
Well, I guess I must have missed the memo because I did not have any.
Damn it. Next year.
Yeah, maybe so. I'll look it up. And now that I know it has a proper name called Pancake Day, I should probably do that.
What do you have on your pancakes then?
I just butter and syrup, everyone. I don't really eat pancakes that often. I'm more of a waffle guy, and I really don't even eat those that often.
I would have said that as well.
Waffle guy. But I don't eat them very often. Actually, no. It's just I don't know. It's not that I don't like them. Ground Tech is in the chat. Oi oi.
And right. Ibrahim.
And Ibrahim and Manos. Who's the only person apparently in our group that owns a car. Apparently that's a thing. I guess nobody owns a car in the UK. You got a car?
Yeah.
We don't take it to work?
Saoirse, for God's sakes, if she drives it. Lauren drives it to work. Lauren has the car. Yeah, I'll get a bus. I'm a bus wanker.
Yeah, that's right. A full kit wanker.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Basically, you can stick wanker on the end of anything in the UK.
Right, pancake wanker. Yeah, it's okay. Well,
Yeah.
I guess the question is so what's that trip like? So I guess you have to catch a series of buses, or is it just
I
one
do
bus?
now, yeah, because they changed the route, which was really annoying. So I used to get one bus that changed into a different one, a Z
Okay.
that changed into an A. But now they don't change, so I have to get off and get another one. Very frustrating.
So what's that take as far as time every day? Like, because Luton is not far. That's where the mall's at, right? Where you?
That's right.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so how far? I mean, like when you have to leave in order to get there.
45 minutes, maybe.
Is that just because of the trip, or is it
Yeah,
45 minutes
trip.
away?
Yeah, you could probably do it in 25, 30 driving easily.
Okay, so that's not too bad. What's on your mug there? There's a picture.
This
like
one is from a beer festival at St Albans.
Okay,
2018 beer festival.
there you go. It's kind of cool. It's got it's got the dude, instead of holding up this, he's holding up a pint. Good, mate. They changed the route. That's the UK. Yeah, I guess they changed the route. That's the UK for you. I guess they do that in the United States too. Although where I live, I mean, if you lived in the city of St. Louis, you could probably get around by bus. And there is a Metrolink, but it really kind of just it's just one. It's not like in Boston where you've got the T, where you got the red line and the orange line and stuff, where you get different kind of intersecting places of the city. There's really the Metrolink goes from like, I guess, West St. Louis County, and it kind of goes downtown, and that goes actually over to the river. So it goes across to Illinois and the St. Clair's area. And so you can pick it up in Illinois and then come across the bridge. And then you go basically south, or you can go north to it goes right to, it terminates at the airport basically. So I mean, it was a nice,
funny enough.
Great. It'd be great.
Bus terminates at the Luton airport.
Well, okay. So I guess that's kind of cool. But yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if it came, more south to where I'm at, instead of like kind of the western kind of part of the county, if it came to like near where I live, I would drive there and park and then ride it in and just leave my car at like a little,
park and ride.
Yeah, park and ride. That's what I would do. I just drive halfway, and get on it and then take it northbound, right? And it goes, because there's right next to where I work, there's literally a station. I think it's like might be 3 blocks away. It's right there, and I just get off and just take a walk. So, however, it's not close. So by the time I really would drive to the place where it actually ends in the Webster Groves area, which is the town, I'm almost halfway. I mean, I'm literally like 15 minutes from the bank. So why not just why bother, right? Yeah. But it doesn't seem like it's likely. It's kind of a.
Jimmy saying, sorry, I'm late. We're always late.
I was going to say
we don't need to apologize.
We're going to have 6 minutes off. So anyway, yeah, it just doesn't make any sense. And really, the funny thing is when they put that station where they did, it was really kind of a lot of consternation about it for some reason. I don't know why people just like, I guess they didn't like having a station there. So who knows? It was a part of an area where like nobody lived. It was almost like kind of a local, a quasi kind of commercial industrial section, which is so weird. But everybody was just like, oh, it's going to bring a bunch of riffraff and this. It's like, come on, just calm down. I mean, it's, it'd be nice. It'd be nice if we had in this area a little bit more of a better public transportation situation. We just don't. And it's kind of like the way it is. Unless you live in a major city, it's kind of like the way it is. I mean, if you live in New York or Boston or places like Chicago, you got the loop and stuff, it makes sense. But if you're like in the Midwest, it's
is there much demand for it though?
No, not really. Americans just are kind of used to, I mean, like I said, it's just kind of like we're used to driving long distances. Like for me, driving, I could get in a car and drive. No, well, not legally. People do. It's not a good idea. It's a terrible idea. It's just destructive.
It's an awful idea.
It's a terrible idea, and you should.
I don't even have one. We're allowed to have one, aren't we? Really, but I don't even have one. And
yeah, it just depends on who you are, right? But yeah, it's one of those things where I think just American culture, it's always been kind of a driving kind of thing, and for me, it's like getting up and to Chicago, I guess is Kansas City. So it's basically Chicago kind of to the northeast, and then Kansas City straight across the state, right on the other side of the state. drive 4 hours isn't that like to drive Chicago really isn't that big of a deal. Like I could do that. I mean, I could get up at 8:00 and be there by noon. I've done that before. I've driven like to Kansas City during the day or whatever, and
So you couldn't go there for breakfast, then, could you, mate?
Sure, you could if you left at like 3 a.m. You could get there about and actually it'd probably be a good idea because there won't be anybody on the road. It'd be like
it'd be a good time to drive.
Getting into Chicago, but the problem is you probably get into Chicago right at rush hour, and boy, I mean Chicago getting around is a nightmare anyway, traffic wise. And you're going to get to the Adelaide Stevenson, the Dan Ryan Expressway at like 8 a.m. Oh boy! If you're coming from west suburbs, it won't be too bad. If you're coming from south, it might not be terrible, but yeah, I would not recommend it. Basically, I would go there the night before and then just get up and we've done it. Like, but for that, I mean, but I know it's an hour commute to my house. Like for the physical distance is like 48 miles or whatever from my door to where I work, and so it takes about an hour ish or so, 55 minutes, and I'm just so used to it. It's not even funny. It's like I don't like the drive, but I'm just used to it. So Americans driving an hour. When you say you live an hour away, that's close for people I know. If you say you live an hour away and like in the UK, it's like holy crap, man, you live practically on the other side of the country, right? In the United States, it's just an hour drive isn't that big of a deal.
No, yeah. So Steve Litchfield in the chat.
Yeah, Steve. He's just patched through up the topic. We were talking about commuting in the United States and the UK. That's what we were talking about. It wasn't really
the Nomad Tech project, and we're talking about commuting.
Right. Well, we had a topic. I guess it was brought up on the show we were on the other day, right? So we were on the Bunch of Phonies with Dan and Neil. It's always very gracious, a good time. They were talking about Sora, right? Basically, this new. I don't want to get too much into it because we kind of flushed it out there. And if you really want to listen to us talk about it, you can listen to that show, download that Bunch of Phonies, go to YouTube and subscribe. It's a good time. It's a good chat. And, but I'm kind of torn about it, right? I think it's going to be, obviously if left to and developed and kept under control, it could be pretty awesome, right? But unfortunately left to, nefarious and bad actors, it's going to go a little sideways. So it's going to be interesting to see. Somebody did make a comment about it, and I think it was in that chat too. Is about it's I don't know if not, I'm not sure. It was subscription, but you'll have to pay. It'll be one of those things that won't be free, right? In order to use that, so they're going to try to monetize that, right?
Very few things are free,
right? At least at first they are. Well, they are at first because they want you to get to use it, and it's fun.
Get you hooked.
Then you get to kind of depend on it, and you get kind of used to it, and then you're like, oh well, that's like well. And they'll start out small, like, oh, it's only $3.99 a month. And then it's, for the first 6 months, it's only 99 cents. And then you subscribe to it, and it's not a big deal. And then the real rates, it's like, and then you'll forget to unsubscribe because people do that too, because they don't track that. And then it'll be one day you'll get a bill for like $8. And you're like, oh, it's not too bad. I mean, look at Netflix, right? When it first started out.
Oh, they always catch you with them free.
It wasn't
3 months free.
Right. It wasn't too bad. Now you've got all these services to fragment all your, so in order to watch TV, you've got to watch like Paramount Plus and Netflix and Amazon Prime and Hulu and all this other kind of stuff. And it's and there's no way to stop it because they got us hooked, right? People like their shows. I would say people they always like TV shows, but it's completely changed the way we watch television, right? Because it used to be, if you watched, sitcoms in the 80s, right, in the 90s when I was a kid, you had to wait. The show came on Thursday nights at 7 p.m., right? And you had to wait. Yeah. And then writers wrote an episode until the summer, right? And then they took the summer off, and then you had sweeps week, and then, the fall came in, and boom, you would come in, they'd have the season premiere, the new season, and you would be excited. Well, now it's like, now they release a season, and it almost pisses people off that they actually don't release. They have the entire thing filmed, but they won't release it until they actually try to make it like a week.
You got to wait a week.
People are pissed off. I'm like, Jesus, that's the way it used to be, right? And and the funny thing is, then you had like TV Guide. So you used to get a book that I don't know if they had TV Guide in the UK. I'm sure they had something kind of comparable to it, where you had to look and see when the show came on, or like what's on TV, and had the stations, right? And they had the times, and then you actually had a channel. It was like their guide channel. It wasn't the guide, but actually a channel you would watch, and you'd have to wait, and it would rotate through like at 8 o'clock. And
do you remember recording series on tapes?
Oh yeah, on VHS.
So you could rewatch it.
Yeah, VHS, and then remember when you used to want, if you wanted to know the movie times, you'd call the movie. They had a recording of all. Here's what's playing on Friday, 13th of August, and you'd listen to here's a room for a view, and here's all the movies, right? And you had to listen to the show times, and you had to wait until It wasn't even prompted. It wouldn't like press 1 for this movie. You had to sit there and wait until the entire recording.
Good
Somebody
bit of
actually
info from
recorded that.
teletext though. Teletext. Did you have that?
So describe it. I mean, I don't know the. So what is
basic? That? Like it's basic, just font on the screen. On the telly, you could press the red button type thing.
Oh yeah, and it was like it's kind of like what do they call it? Closed captioning is what we would. Yeah, they still have that now, but yeah, it was real basic, and of course it would miss half the time, and it wouldn't do it correctly, and it was so totally backwards, right? It was funny. I just remember in my, they had time and temperature. We actually had a telephone number in St. Louis, and it still actually works. 321-2222. I swear to God, if you're in the St. Louis area, 314-321-2222, and it would literally give you time. The current time is 4:34 p.m. And the weather, it would give you time and temperature and the weather. I swear to God, it was still, and I tried to call it the other day, and sure enough, it's still there. I don't know why anybody in there, I think they just keep it because it's kind of funny now. But that was the way you set your clocks, right? Because remember, you didn't know what the time was, and your clocks didn't automatically update, and of course they would get out of whack.
Was a nightmare.
Right, and they would get out of whack after a couple of months, or the battery would die, and you didn't know what time it was. You didn't, unless you had a wristwatch on, and if you didn't, if you're sitting in your house, you didn't have a digital device, so you had to call time and temperature. It's like, okay, then you'd set your clocks in the house to the time that it set it on the record. It's so goofy.
Same way with music though, isn't it? It's all sad. Like people don't listen to a full album anymore, do they?
Well, they don't have to now, and that's the beauty of it. And then it makes me feel bad for some of these artists, right? Because they've got to make an entire album. Usually, they've got a 6-track or 10-track LP, right? And then they would, and that shows how old I am. And called it an LP, right? But they got to come up with 10 songs on an album, and most people listen to 2 or 3 or 4. And then they had the B-side, remember? So they had the one, the B-side, the B-sides, right? So that was your not as popular, right? But yeah, and bring it back in the memories. Oh yeah, well, like I said, I'm old, so I grew up in the old days, right? So I grew up pre-internet, right, in the Cold War, and Steve is kind of he's a little older than I am, so he makes a comment. Absolutely, TV was better 20 years ago.
I think we love our tech.
VCRs,
sometimes, you lose some of the tactile and fun things, don't you? Like,
yeah, and I agree with Steve. Like I said, now everything's monetized, right? Because back in the day, you got the local channels, right? So I guess in the BBC in the UK, they had BBC. They had 3 channels, right? BBC 1, 2, and 3. I would assume they had, right?
BBC. Yeah, you got ITV.
Right. So you'd have, but they were broadcast antenna. They were broadcast analog, and you could watch them whenever you want. And here's another thing that you want to make a Gen Zer really freak out, or my kids freak out. Tell them that TV stations used to go off the air at night, like at midnight. They would go. I swear to God, they would go off the air. They would not have. It wasn't 24-hour news or 24-hour TV. It was like 11:30 or midnight would come on, and they would play the national anthem, kind of a thing they did. And then they went to either a test pattern, like a test pattern, or the static, right? Or the static, and then usually 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. it would come back on. It was like either the morning report, like the crop report or the weather report. But at 6 a.m., the first news station would kind of come on. So between 12 and 6, there was nothing on television to watch. There was, unless you had a VCR recording of something or whatever. You couldn't just turn on channel, local. And he said BBC 1 and 2, ITV channel 4, and all 100% free. Yep. So yeah. I mean, it's just it's so crazy now, because now I guess you have to trade, right? You get the convenience of having on-demand TV, right? You don't have to sit there and watch. It's like if you had a regular broadcast TV, you're at their total mercy, right? You had to actually whatever was on TV, whatever the programming was, you had to suffer through it, and you didn't have cable, right? When I was a kid, cable TV was kind of like what rich people had. When in the 80s, it just started to become a thing. And if you had like Cinemax and HBO, you were even cooler, right? You had you had movie channels, right? Of course, nothing was, and of course now it's like you can do whatever. You would download, stream it, a song.
You can almost pick a movie and you'll find it somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, it's just crazy, and then it's just basically how much you're willing to pay, and so that becomes the problem now. And I guess that's the. But
no one owns things. So like, I started collecting Blu-rays with Tom Hanks, because I quite like Tom Hanks films, but I haven't actually got a Blu-ray player set up anywhere.
Right. I don't even, well, I mean, technically, I guess your Xbox and your PlayStation, I guess will play
Yeah, my
Blu-ray.
PlayStation in the summer house. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
play Blu-ray, but I mean, a dedicated like VCR or a dedicated, you know, Blu-ray player, or I mean, remember Laserdisc? Maybe that wasn't a thing in the UK. Remember the Laserdisc? It was like huge album size
Laserdisc.
seat. Oh, dude, you don't remember those? Oh,
No,
dude.
no.
Yeah. So, okay. This is, I guess I'm going to say it was probably this is pre DVD, right? So,
Oh,
let me,
okay.
oh, yeah. And it was cool because, I mean, and you can still get these things, which is wild. So, let me share. Yeah.
Sony were massive on the Blu-ray front, weren't they?
Yeah. Let me see if I can, how do I share this? Let's see. Share, present.
Yeah, let's just share the Laserdisc.
Yeah. Share screen. There we go. Oh, here we go.
Was it like a vinyl? But
this is what it was. It looked like a huge VCR.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so it had the tray, right? And this is, I can't believe this it actually works. That is so cool. But yeah, so you do that, right? And then if you go here,
Battery's not included.
battery's not included, right? So, yeah, so it was like this. It was like an album. It was basically a large DVD, is what it was. Hold on, I'm not sharing anymore, am I? Oh, what happened? Oh, present, share screen.
I was going to say, because Steve said it was rare in the UK. I don't recall.
That's what it looked like.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a 12-inch, essentially a 12-inch DVD or a CD is what it was.
Wow.
And,
okay.
yeah, it was. I mean, and my buddy had one, and his mom had like, I think she had like 5 or 6 movies. First of all, the disc player weighed like 1 billion pounds.
Yeah,
It was
I would say
super heavy. But yeah, I mean, you basically went to the store, and they were like, I mean, literally, it was like LPs, right? You basically pick out, and that's what it was. I think it came out. I think
that looks weird.
It is weird. And it came out, I guess what did it say? 1979?
So I look at that and think it's vinyl.
Yeah. Basically, it was a laser disc.
Vinyl. I used to mix garage music, and playing on vinyl is just so nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. So yeah, what I tell people is it's wild, man. It's, and you had to get that, and he said $200 a year for a TV license to fund the BBC, but that helps pay for all their content. So okay, now they bill? I guess you get a bill for.
Yeah, you have to have a TV license.
Everybody in the TV in the UK has to pay this $200 bill.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, I mean, hey, you know what? I mean, you need TV, right? You need regular.
Even if you
still need TV.
Do the
stations,
catch-up
right?
services and stuff like that. Even if you haven't got live TV, you still have to.
Yeah, I guess it was rare in the UK. I guess it was, and I guess the company that made it was I guess who was this man? I guess Disco. It's called Disco Vision in the United States. Oh,
Disco Vision.
Well, that's what it was called. It was marketed as MCA Disco Vision. In the United States, Laserdisc is not fully digital. Yeah. So yeah, and then they had the Betamax. God love it.
Manos just said he doesn't pay a TV license.
He doesn't pay the TV license.
They're going to come for you.
Yeah, I guess my question is, can you ditch not paying for it? Or it's like the IRS, right? They're going to come and get you. 12 years now.
They do, yeah, they do. If they know you're playing TV there, he said he doesn't play for live TV. I'm sure even if you do catch up, you have to pay the license.
Okay. He says he only has Netflix and stuff. Okay, well, I guess yeah. He goes no. Okay, so no, I guess you don't all have to pay for it. You only pay the TV license you watch live TV or recorded anything live. You don't need a license if you catch up TV.
I thought you had to with catch up because it's still BBC services.
That's weird. I never knew it. So I mean we have to pay for like So is that on top of like if you have like satellite or cable TV service, or is that a separate deal?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's kind of.
There's loads of Freeview though that you can get. Do you have Freeview TV?
Yeah, we have stuff like that.
I figured you probably did.
Yeah, so and it says BBC iPlayer needs a license. Yeah, that's interesting. Like I said, we don't have anything like that. I mean, we don't have you would have your local. You have ABC, CBS, and NBC, right? Those are the 3 major networks in the United States, and then you have local affiliates, right? So they have licenses to play that. But I mean, I don't pay money to NBC, and I don't pay money to the local affiliates because it's just part of the cable TV package. And that was kind of a big deal, right? So at one point they were because they have to negotiate all that, which is another that in and of itself is a complicated situation, and that could be a completely different show for another day.
Okay.
But however,
We won't go there.
I don't even understand all the ins and outs of it. But basically, what it comes down to is, they have to negotiate the rights to broadcast services for these networks. And so like at Channel 5 is the local NBC affiliate here in St. Louis. And I guess if you had DirecTV, they didn't negotiate with the local affiliate. And so basically anything that was on that TV was blocked. I mean, that channel basically came up and said, hey, we're basically in a negotiation. So the TV is essentially cut off. And that's why it's good to have the digital signal, because then you could still technically, if you wanted to watch Channel 5, you could, because they broadcast over the air. It's all weird how TV is. Television, especially movies, it's a little different right now. You can just buy movies, you can still rent them, you can still stream them, you can do all that. But TV, when it comes to contracts and negotiations and local affiliates and stuff, at least in the United States, is really a kind of a mess, and how this has all worked. And I guess I'm going to assume in the other world, in the UK and other places in Europe, I'm sure it's just as complicated. I'm sure it's not as straightforward. Yeah.
When it comes to live TV, Sam, I think the only live TV I watch now is sporting events.
Right. I mean, that's pretty much what I do. I mean, I don't watch network, like, there's shows on like Channel 5, like NBC and CBS and stuff. I don't watch a lot of television. As a matter of fact, if I were a single person, literally, I probably wouldn't have a TV package. I would probably have Netflix. I might have Amazon Prime because I get it with the thing. I might have other basic TV, and then I would have sports. That would be whatever I could do to get a sports channel. And so I just don't watch a lot of television. I just don't. And if I do watch them, daughter's in the chat. Hey, she's on Twitch. So I figured no one but my daughter is on Twitch, but that's cool. She's always on Twitch anyway. Matter of fact, I was watching Twitch today because Survival Bob, he's a guy that is a streamer on Twitch that does the No Man's Sky game. I kind of watch him. The new expansion came out for anybody who plays No Man's Sky. If you don't, that's cool. And so I was watching that just before the show, and I downloaded it and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, TV is kind of a mess, and I think it's because it has to. All these negotiated contracts are still having to kind of be worked through from the old days of how TV was structured, and the new pricing models and everything else. So it's TV and movie, and that landscape is completely a mess now. I think it's just because that transition has not been smooth.
Well, on the phone, he was talking about AI, wasn't we? And you saw that AI generated footage was unreal, and that's going to be the future, isn't it, as well? Probably AI generated shows.
Yeah. All right. Hey, thanks for stopping by, Steve. Appreciate you as always. Thanks for popping in. Yeah, and we tried to, and I took that feedback, especially well, actually that I was kind of already on the last stab with that, and then when I had that show with Steve, and basically he said, I can never hear you. And that's when I was fighting that XLR mic. At that point, I was just like, after Steve's input, I was like, you know what? I'm done with it. I got to get a new mic. Yeah. So he appreciates the effort. And so we appreciate the feedback that he gave, especially for my audio. So thank you very much for that as well. But yeah, it's AI generated content. I think that's going to be more for indie people, and then like regular folks like us. We can make our own TV shows, right? We could make our own TV shows. We could make our own content. We can make our own videos, our own shorts, our own documentaries. And you could do a lot of stuff with that, and you don't have to worry about, again, like I was telling them on the bunch of phonies, it's not being gatekeeped anymore by a network studio or a movie studio. They don't have to look at your script and get actors for it. You don't even need actors. Matter of fact, you can't really use real people, right? Supposedly. Yeah. I'm sure that's going to be broken and stuff. And actually, if I were a movie actor, I would actually sell my licensing to a company to let them use my likeness on shows. I mean, hell, that's where the money's at. I mean, you have a likeness of Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise or Naomi Campbell or whomever, or any of these other actresses or actors, hell with it. What's cool is because remember, when you're shooting an actual movie, you have to be on set, you have to be in the trailer, you have to do all that stuff, and you can only do one at a time, right? You can't, and if it takes 9 months to film on location, well, that's all you do. But all you got to do is give your likeness out. You could be in a dozen movies at the same time.
You know, shows get cancelled or a character will get cancelled off because the actor passes away.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be a thing. They could still carry the show on.
Right.
with
And then
their-
now you're in that corner of the reason why The Simpsons has been going on for 30 years, right? Because the actors and actresses never age and they don't die, right?
Yeah,
They don't get older.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, and that's another thing too is, okay, how's that going to work? Do you want to, let's say, we had an instance where, Carl Weathers wasn't really in movies, but he was in commercials and stuff. Carl Weathers passed away earlier a couple of months ago, right? Well, what happens if his estate says, hey, you can continue to use Carl's likeness in other commercials and TV shows? Well, then there's a way for Carl's family to basically monetize his likeness. You know, and it's really, really interesting how this is going to work out. And then, like I said, my daughter, and we've had this conversation, we've talked about it before, and that it can be dangerous, but it's going to be interesting to see, especially when it comes to actors and actresses, right? Instead of using this generated, like in those videos, it was all just random people, right? It was not a person. It was just generated, random human. But I'm curious to see how that's going to work and how people are going to do it. And Peter's in the chat. And we saw Shark. I saw Shark in the chat too. There he is.
Yeah,
MTV airing a short about oh yeah. Man, Karen Carpenter passed away in 1983. They beat the major networks and papers by hours. Like, oh yeah, things have definitely changed. We are in a new world. And and they use AI in movies as well. That's right. Mike and Jay.
Like Sam, what I was saying about the fact that we had Valentine's Day.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that's all about love. I wanted to talk about some of the tech we've loved down the years. I mean, we kind of have. You obviously loved the big CDs.
Right, the laser disc. Well, the funny is, I never had one. My buddy's mom had one, and we just thought it was the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Yeah,
and then, of course, then we had DVDs, and then that was the end of it, right? But yeah, let's see.
What was the first piece of tech, Sam, that you was like, wow?
Okay, so the first, and I don't think they make, and so I don't know if it's tech per se. I guess it is technically. So when I was a kid, we had things called Radio Shacks. I know they probably had Radio Shacks in the UK or something like that. Little radio store you could buy like components and diodes and radio stuff, and it was kind of neat. You can build your own ham radios and all sorts of crap. Well, when I was a kid, they had it was like I don't know how to describe it. It was like basically it was like a little it was a board, it had little springs on it, and you could hook basic wiring to it. It was like wires, right? So you could basically make buzzers and lights. I don't know what it was called. Why was it called 101? Okay, yeah, it kind of looked like this, and I'll show it to you. Yeah,
I need a visual. I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna have to, because it's kind of look like this thing. So I can't really get it's hard to kind of, let me see if they have images. Well,
is it like a circuit board, and you can?
Yeah, it's like a circuit board. Yeah, so it looked just like this. This is what I had, right? And hold on a minute. Let me reshare this. Hold on. This is so goofy. I hate this stop screen. Let's present, share screen, and I think it was there we go. It looked like this.
I'll describe it to the people listening on audio. Yeah, it's basically like,
it was a circuit board, but you had
boards.
Yeah, you had up here, you had like diodes, and there was like a little dial, and there was a capacitor, and then a buzz, like a speaker, and this was like a little LED light, and you basically had a book, and it showed you how. And over here on the right side had all the wires. You had different lengths, and they were color coded, and basically the diagrams showed you how to basically wire all this stuff up to make like buzzers. And when I had it and made the light, was kind of cool because you can change light, and then how you gave it power.
Could you make like one buzzer or one like a little knob or knobble thing, like affect a buzzer, and then make it go turn the light on, and then
So here, I guess it was
build a circuit.
It was like a voltimeter here, but what's cool is you could hook it up, and then you could like turn this knob, and it would go. You could do the modulation of it, so it would. You could change the pitch. It was pretty basic, but this is exactly what I had. This exact kit, and they have different variations of it. And I bought it. This is the first piece of tech I had when I was a kid, and I mean, I probably spent weeks of my life just and had a book, and it came with a big, huge manual, and it had ways to do this and do that. And there was down here in the bottom left corner, a little actual switch.
It looks real complex.
And this, It is.
for a kid.
The funny thing is, it isn't really, because they gave you a book. If they would just handed to me all the wires, I would have been stuck, right?
Yeah.
But down here, this is a radio component, right? So this is you could actually turn it to get radio stations. This is an actual radio transponder.
What age was you, Sam?
It might have been 7. I think my mom got it for me when I was in second
Sam,
grade.
you give that to a 7-year-old now.
I think if you gave this to a 7-year-old now, and you really spent time, well, when my mom gave it to me, she didn't actually sit down with me and actually play with it. She just dropped in my lap. But again, I didn't have a cell phone. There was no internet in 1982, right? None of that was available. So I didn't have stuff. I went outside a lot, but when I came inside, I didn't have a Nintendo. I had an Atari when I was a little kid, right around the same time. And my mom, I didn't play a lot of games like that. So there wasn't much else to do other than watch TV, which again, I didn't do as a kid. And then there wasn't anything else. Right. And so it's kind of cool, right? It was just neat. But I just remember if you're a parent now and you sit down, like you could get Saoirse this thing and do some basic stuff and show it to her and it makes noise and stuff. And she might think it's cool. But this is the kind of stuff that I think that now you have to kind of actively, as a parent, you have to actively compete against those things, right? And it's not necessarily stopping your kids from having access to the technology, but you have to be a lot more involved. You can't just put this down and they've got access to an iPad, right? Because then it doesn't make this thing doesn't make any sense for them. But I mean, some kids would really dig on this. Like I said, I would actually buy one. And then Anna, the problem is Anna probably would have done this as a kid. She liked doing stuff like this. I just, her mother and I had disagreements on how she would basically be what she'd be exposed to, right? And Anna got read to a lot, so that's why she likes to read and stuff.
That's a good thing, though, man. That's very.
But when I was a kid, this was like my first big tech-y kind of thing, right? I loved using this thing, and I basically played it until it broke. And then of course then I was like 11 or 12 and was into other stuff. But that time, the Nintendo came out in 1986 and 96, so that was when I started to shift more into playing games and going outside. But even then, it was like we were outside all the time as a kid. I mean, that's just the way it was. I mean, I didn't.
Yeah, I was as well. Yeah, I used to come to summer holidays. I'd leave with a big bottle of water, my football. I'd go out, hit the field, and we were literally playing football all day.
Yeah, and then like I said, you can still, you can get these on eBay. They still actually sell them on but yeah, like a Raspberry Pi. But yeah, it was for a person like me, it allowed you to basically be a little electrician, right? You can do little electrical. It taught you how to use a diode and a capacitor.
Did you have to solder? You didn't have to solder, right?
No, all they were like
a little 7-year-old.
Oh yeah,
soldering.
A soldering gun. Yeah, right. No, but it was cool because they had like little conical little springs. So you just bend the spring and then put the wire in and let it go, and that's how you made the connection.
Like when you connect speakers.
Yeah, it was basically that, but it was even more simple. It was just basically a kind of a conical sphere, and it stuck out, and then you bent it in half, and that would open up the side, and then you stick the wire in and let it close, and it would hold it in place. Some of those got pretty intense. I mean, there was like one near the back of the book was kind of an advanced one. I forgot what it did, and there was like probably 40 or 50 wires going across and interconnected. And the problem is if you got one of them out of place, it wouldn't work. And so you'd be like, and then you'd be like trying to go back and pull wires out. And of course there were times I would get mad because I couldn't get it to work. But it's just because you missed a wire somewhere. It wasn't connected properly.
Or just hanging out.
Right. It was about following directions and following a pattern and following a process. Right. It was pretty cool. Like
the satisfaction once you'd done it though.
Oh, I was cool. Like I had one that was a tripwire. And it was cool because they gave you a long. I found out, I was like, well, how do I get it to go across the doorway? Because I think the longest wire was like maybe this long. And I didn't have a brother or sister to kind of ask or whatever, or older brother, and it was my grandmother. And she's, but like old school Italian, right? She didn't know nothing. So I found out you could take the wires and you can basically, the ends were open. They weren't shielded. I just tied a bunch together. I took like 4 or 5 of those yellow ones and just tied them into I daisy chained them together. I just figured out like, I can just do it this way.
You made a tripwire.
And basically what happened was if my grandmother would walk into the room and I would say, hey, Grandma, come here for a second. And she would come in and of course it'd be across the floor. And of course it was so weak. She didn't feel it, and she tripped the wire. And it would go, and the buzzer would go off because it was set up to once the circuit would break, the buzzer would go off, and then she'd go, and she goes, shut that damn thing out, buzzer. But it was cool. I mean, it was stuff like that. But when you got to accomplish that as a kid, I mean, it was like the coolest thing. I thought I was like hot shit when I was a kid. Like I didn't know anybody else who had one, and I thought it was kind of cool. Like my mom's like,
Yeah.
man, I got this, little hobby kit. It was kind of neat. You know, my buddy, he was into model rockets. I don't know if you remember. You ever had
Yeah.
those? Dude, he was huge into that stuff. They had like different stages, and they had like actual engines, and they were like electronically. He had a little box. Oh, dude, he was big into that shit, and it was cool. He'd fire these things off, and they'd go up a couple 300 feet in the air. They were pretty wild. And they had a little, parachute would let it come down, and then you reuse the tubing. He was big into.
That's really exciting for a kid, though, as well, isn't it?
Oh, model rockets. Yeah, kids don't do that shit anymore. They don't have to because it's like the phones.
They can just watch a load of model rockets on YouTube,
or they can play. They can build a whole city with Minecraft. So again, the funny thing is their brains are being engaged. It's just a digital medium, right? It's not going out and building a fort or having like when I was a kid, we would go out and we'd find we'd dam a little creek or something like that, or we would we'd find a big vine and we all swing on it, right? And we would build. And then my buddy had
I remember swinging on
of stuff. Yeah, and we had pieces of stuff, and we built like a kind of a quasi. You had chairs, which basically just a couple logs, and you build like a little fort, and you guys would hang out.
You had to swing over some water as well, right? Like even if it's just a stream.
It was your little clubhouse, right? Well, now because of technology, it's like now you can do amazing stuff. I mean, can you imagine 10-year-old me having access to an Apple Vision Pro? I mean, or a Meta Quest? It's just completely insane. Like and everybody's like, well, these kids, it's like, no, you didn't have access to that in 1985. There wasn't a headset. And if it was, that would literally be in the future. It would just be like, you couldn't say, if you would have said to me at 10 years old, by the time you're your parents' age or a little older, like you're not 50, you will have these things. I think most Americans would have said you were insane. You would have said you're crazy. There's no way they're going to do that by 2023. I mean, hell, look at the movies. Look at the Back to the Future. There's your example, right?
Yeah,
all that stuff happened.
Great.
That already happened. They were talking about flying cars and hoverboards and jackets that self-dry and all crazy shit. Like none of that actually. Oh, the Virtual Boy. Yeah. Well, and I guess it's vector graphics. I guess that kind of counts. But we're talking between the difference between a Virtual Boy and a Meta Quest 3. I think is pretty different. It's kind of like my buddy's model rocket and an actual hyper like a Saturn, it's a little different, but yeah, I get it. Plus the battery on that life was terrible. The Visual Boy. It was kind of cool. The Virtual Boy was cool though. But
don't know if I know Virtual Boy.
So what was your your first tech, I guess, as a kid that wasn't, I mean, do you have anything? Again, mine wasn't really.
I think it's my dad's Atari, to be honest.
Was it the wood grain one or was it the black?
Yeah, the wood grain one. Yeah.
Oh, so cool.
Yeah. Then he got a newer one later on. Black one which was slanted slightly with like silver on the top.
Okay, was it still an Atari 2600 or do they call it something else in the UK? I guess with the old Atari with the so what it do you
remember cartridges though? Yeah,
the square black cartridge thing.
Yeah.
So was it called Atari 2600 in the UK or was it called?
I think it probably was. Yeah, I think it probably was. That rings a bell for some reason.
Well, yeah, because I'm trying to think. Let's see. So
I mean, the most simple game though, there was this boxing game. The 2600. That's the wood one that my dad had. Yeah, there's a simple boxing game that me and my sister would play. You know what it is? You'd have the head and two arms.
Oh yeah,
and you just go like that and you punch. So it spent ages doing that.
So it was like this.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. Atari 2600. Yep. Yeah. Got great Smurf.
Thing is, I'd still enjoy playing that now. When I was in San Fran, we went to a museum and they had Pong. Such a basic game.
Dude. Oh, dude. Cubert. Oh, that was a good game because the thing would swear.
Cubert.
Slam Dunk, Pro Basketball, Spider Fighter, Chopper Command.
Centipede.
Oh, Dragster. I remember that game. I used to have that game. Cosmic Avenger. Yeah, so that's cool. Yeah, I mean,
Afterburn. Is it Afterburn?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Let's see. Well, then again, they had then you had the Atari 2600. Then you had the 5200, right? So you had that. That was the hot. You were a baller if you had one of those, right? The old, and I didn't have one. Let me see. 5600 looks like this. Stop screen.
My favorite console was the Master System. Now, when I got that, I was so happy.
Yeah, that's the Atari 5200.
Yeah, I think that's what my dad had. That's the
Yeah, that
silver
was
I was
it.
talking about.
Yeah, that would have been, yeah. And it had the paddle controllers because again, this is kind of like, well, if you had an Intellivision, you'd have the
I don't think he
overlays.
had the paddle controllers though.
I don't know. I don't think I thought it came with that. See, that was the way it came. Those are
Maybe it
the
wasn't
actual
that then.
controllers for that. Well, I mean,
No,
it's
it was a
got the
bit. It
silver.
was slimmer than that though. What my dad had. It had that silver look to it. That's too big actually. That.
Okay, but yeah,
Um,
that's cool. So yeah, I mean, and I had one of those too. And so let's oh
Sorry, it
yeah,
was great.
let's go back to let's go check the chat. Rotary phone. Oh, dude, yeah, give a rotary
And it
phone
was
to
the
a 7-year-old.
26. Yeah, it is the 2600
Yeah.
he had. Yeah, man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's the silver I remember, the silver bit with Atari in the middle.
Okay, I guess I had another version of it. Okay, that's cool. Let's see. Virtual Boy, Game Gear. Oh, the Atari with a cassette loader. Oh, yeah. So when I was a kid, I had, well, I still had my Commodore 64. So I had a Commodore 64, which was cool. It had a tape player. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. Yeah, Commodore 64. I had one of those, had a 128, and that was the first time I
pictures. This museum I took some pictures. See if you recognize some of the tech. You might have had some of it. Let's have a look. Oh, there's an Atari.
Tuna's in the chat. Yeah, my first real tech was hanging with my dad, going to computer shows, buying peak. Yeah, early 90s. There you go. X386 versus Intel. Original Game Boy. Well, oh, yeah. That. Oh, what is a
Spectrum?
Oh, a ZX Spectrum? Sinclair Research. I never saw that.
ZX Spectrum.
Oh God, yeah, the Commodore, yeah, the PET, yeah. I never had one, but I've seen one of those before, and that's where the Commodore 60. So here's the successor to the PET.
Is this more your era, isn't it?
It was this. Yeah. Oh wow, that's old school. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, this museum was pretty cool.
Yeah, so that's the successor to the PET. This. That's 64.
Something I recognize more.
Mm-hmm. And then I had this when I got older. I don't remember. A friend of mine's parents gave it to me because they bought it for their son, and he had just no interest in it at all, which is kind of hilarious. Let's see. So they had a Commodore 128, and it looked like, yeah, look, that was the 128. That was pretty cool. Like that was my first like proper computer when I was a kid. Hooked up to a TV, and it was cool. Like I mean, it had a disk drive, and it was pretty slick.
You had games where you had like choices, didn't you, to make?
Yeah. Well, the only game I really ever played on this one was a game called it was the original Pirates.
Okay.
And it was on this, and then I played I think I had a version of Karateka, but I couldn't get it to boot very well. It never really worked right. So I didn't have many games for it, but it was kind of cool. But yeah, man, this is like that's the old school stuff. Like nowadays it's like your basic phones have so much computing power in them, it's color. But I mean, this is like 40 years ago. Again, this is not even a lifetime. This is essentially 2 generations ago, right? But I mean, if you would have told me that we would have spatial computing and AI, like show somebody, 40 years ago when I was a kid, show them those videos of Sora and say that they think, well, you don't have access to that. Like regular people don't have access. Like, no, everybody can do that. Like nowadays, anybody can do that.
Mad.
And they'd be like, they would look at you like you were from another planet. It wouldn't even be this. It's crazy how far we've come in just even 10 years. So
the thing is, though, don't you think some of it's sometimes a bit overwhelming? Like you just want to play Pong.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I have that arcade machine over there. It's got Asteroids. It's got Defender. You know how many times I play that as opposed like the other night?
Actually,
my wife and I were playing Golden Tee. Yeah.
That San Fran trip as well. One thing we did do. We went to an arcade, right? And there was this 4-man Pac-Man.
Oh yeah,
and that was awesome. That got us hooked. We all went on that, And
Well, I remember when I was a kid, we had the double sided Miss Pac-Man. It was like the glass tabletop, and it was
that's
Miss
what it was.
Pac-Man.
Yeah.
And you played two players, and the screen would just flip to the other side, and then you had Miss Pac-Man. And dude, I used to play.
So this was a 4-man one, right?
Yeah.
And you'd actually take each other out as well.
Ooh, okay, that's interesting.
So as the last man standing,
you're playing at the same time, not just
all at the same time.
Like
combat. So you obviously avoid the
combat
ghosts. Yeah, and then you take each other out as well. So you're grabbing the fruits and all that jazz.
That's wild.
Yeah, it was cool.
Well, that's another thing. That's another thing I do miss as I've gotten older. Is actually going to an arcade, and actually having arcades, especially and not for just regular games. I mean, that was cool, like to play, but especially if you're playing like Tekken or Street Fighter or any of those kind of games. I just remember when my wife said Silent Scope. That was another game. She loved that game. I really wish I had that, Silent Scope. But it was kind of cool because I remember the first when Mortal Kombat 3 came out in the arcade, the only place they had it in the city was at the airport. I'm not kidding you. In like one of the little airport places.
Mortal Kombat's awesome.
And dude, I remember, it's one of my vivid memories of actually being at the airport.
Get over here.
It was open because it was open all night because the airport was open 24 hours, right? Obviously, an airport. So I remember like literally two people playing, and there would be like dozens of people standing around in like a semicircle, and there would be quarters across the cabinet, and people would just. I mean, I just thought
you meant semicircle.
Yeah, semicircle. So whatever, it's fine. Yeah, semicircle. But I just remember that was cool, right? And then there was a place called in Northwest Plaza. They had a place called Tilt. And it was downstairs arcade. And if you thought you were good at Street Fighter, good at Tekken, good at Mortal Kombat, whatever you thought you were good at fighting game, that was the place to go. Like if you thought you were good, there were people that were amazing at those games. Like, and they would just basically challenge them, and they had quarters across the top of it, across the cabinet, and that's how you play your quarter, you get your ass kicked, you try your best, and you sit down, you rotate.
But it's always the basic games that really grip the masses, right? So like, do you remember Snake on Nokia devices?
Oh yeah,
Snake just blew up, didn't it? Such a simple game. That was essentially Centipede.
Right. Well, look how many people played Minesweeper. Remember Minesweeper on the old Windows?
Oh, Windows, yeah,
people would play Minesweeper for. I mean, that was just like, it was totally cool. But yeah, you miss that kind of stuff, and I'm happy for all the technology we have, and it's really cool because, but it just sucks just because kids, my daughters are never going to experience going to an arcade. Well, you can. I don't know.
You can.
There
it's
is
not the same.
Well, there's a funny thing is, and I don't know if they have this where you are, and they should. It's called One Up. Essentially, it's an arcade. Of course, you can't put quarters in the machine. They use card readers and stuff. But basically, it's like an old school arcade, right? And you can get pizza, and you had it was just basically pizza food.
Sam, if you go to the seaside in the UK, there's arcades still.
Yeah.
So like I was in Lowestoft to see family last weekend. So Saoirse got to try 2p machines.
Oh, cool.
You put them in and they drop down. You can spend hours playing on that.
Well, yeah, man, my buddy had a pachinko. Remember the pachinko machines when you were a kid, the little ball? I mean, they're still huge. I mean, it's just like, you couldn't play games at home, right? You had to leave the house to go do all that. And you had the Nintendo, which was pretty good, but it was different, right? It was going to an arcade was about eating the cheesy pizza. It was terrible, right?
It's the whole experience, yeah.
Hanging out with your friends, riding your bikes over there, hanging out with your friends, taking a handful of quarters or a pocket full, maybe $5-6 in quarters, and just sitting there all day and just playing the arcade. And then when you get done, you're out of quarters, everybody's done. You go across and you play football, or you play soccer or basketball, or whatever you do. And it's just, it's just the basics of it, right? I mean, it's all cool to have this interconnected world, but now we're too interconnected. Like now there's no break from it. It's like nonstop every day. Instead of everybody just, going on Twix and making your peace. Now it's just like people spend all day on that thing, just having fights with people they don't care about situations they're not educated about things that don't matter to them. It's like, and then people complain that they don't have enough time in their day. I'm like, you probably have more time than you think. You're just wasting it on silliness.
Yeah.
And again, there are reasonable and good reasons to engage in those things, right? Social development, social growth, political awareness, all that kind of stuff. But I think, with the problem is people don't have a good tendency to regulate themselves. And I think that's the problem is, it's okay to go on Twitter or go on Instagram or whatever and check some stuff or read a news article, but to spend most of your time on there and then, reading a comment from somebody you don't know and they make some kind of comment that just happens to just get you upset and you lose it. And then now
We
you're all
have to all admit we spend too much time on these types of things.
I think so too. I mean, I've tried to be really good about, trying to stay, grounded where I kind of just, and like, that's why on Twix, I'll read comments from everybody.
Dan's going to be after you. That's his thing. Remember, stay grounded.
Right. Well, I just, he's grounded tech, but yeah, I'm just saying for me, it's just, I try to basically, you have to actively think about it and kind of not do it. Commander Keen.
Well, that's the thing now, isn't it? People tell you to go touch grass.
Yeah. Go outside. Enjoy it while you can, right? So
go and touch grass, man.
Command and Conquer.
I can't believe Peter said that.
Yeah, Command and Conquer.
Matrix is 25 years old.
Yeah, and in Command and Conquer, I never got into Command and Conquer. My buddy was really into it. I tried it. I was terrible at it.
I kind of got into it.
Yeah, I thought they were kind of cool. Command and Conquer. I
liked Age of Empires. Has anyone played Age of Empires? That was good.
Yeah, I played that, and I played a game called Anno. Well, it was called 1503 AD. I think it was kind of like one of those things, and then games like that. But those little
Civilization.
Civ. Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
A matter of fact, I forgot I had a Steam account, and I logged into it a couple of days ago. And I forgot I had it, and I hadn't logged in so long. I had Civ 5. That's where I bought. That was the last. I didn't play Civ 6 because everybody said it kind of sucks.
I need to get a PC, right? Because I used to play these. It's actually board games, but digital versions, and they're great.
Oh yeah, like Monopoly or Sorry.
Yeah, there's one called Ticket to Ride.
Yeah, I've heard
really
of that.
good.
Yeah,
but yeah, me and you could play some board games. It would be fun, man.
Yeah, pachinko is massive. Yeah, I know it's still massive in Japan. They have like pachinko parlors and stuff. They're huge there. Just the good old fashioned. You ever seen pachinko before? Oh, I know you have. Oh no, I know you have. Come on, man. Yeah, absolutely, dude. Come on. There's no way. Let's find it. Pachinko machine.
It's a drama series.
No, like this. Here, I'll show you. Like one of these deals, dude. Oh, my butt. This is an old one though, but I mean, here I'll show it. Yeah, it looks like I know they've had. You mean you've ever seen something like this? Had little metal balls.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and they go up here and it had a little lever, like you put your quarter in or whatever. You hit your lever and it
like
goes
pinball.
Around it. Yeah, it's like kind of like pinball, dude. These are. My buddy had one that looked just like this, and we used to sit there and play it forever. And I didn't even know what the hell it was. Like I didn't know it was Japanese. I knew it was something Asian just because of all the design and stuff. But these things are massive still in Japan. They have like pachinko parlors and stuff. It's crazy. So
I like stuff like that, man. I really like I say, I like to feel stuff, and when you're playing stuff like that, you still feel. I guess you like load the ball up and put how much power you want to put into it.
Yeah, no. Well, I think at least on the one he had, it was just you just pushed it down.
Oh, okay.
And I don't think maybe you could have. I didn't notice.
Was there like? Is it like there's flipper things that you?
No, you just basically it just went up and it was kind of randomized. And I guess you try to get it into those little. There had to be a way to control the trajectory of speed. There had to be a way. Maybe the one he had didn't. I don't know. Or maybe there was something. Again, I was like 9 years old or whatever because it was just like in the basement of my buddy's house. It was his dad's, and I think I don't know where he picked it up. He just had it down there. I don't think he ever played it. He just was down there. And so there's got to be a way to manipulate how the ball goes. It can't just be completely randomized, but I don't know. Maybe
one thing I will say about all this, though, obviously we're talking about some of the negatives and how we miss some stuff. I mean, I met you online, Sam. We've never met in person.
Oh, yeah.
Chad, a lot of the guys in the chat, I mean, got great friendships. So there's positives as well, of course.
Right. Like I said, I don't wish to go back to those days. I kind of just am nostalgic about it because to me, it was simpler. But I think and that's a shame is because it seems like younger people now don't have a simple life anymore.
No, it's
a lot
complex.
It's a lot more complicated for younger people now. People like kids are in the primary school and first and second grade, right? I don't know. I just remember when I was a kid, there wasn't all this technology to do. I mean, and just the thought of actually having a video phone call would have been crazy. And first of all, if you could have done it, would have cost you $1 billion. I mean, I would live in a day where like if I called you in the UK on a telephone, it would cost me like $2 a minute to talk to you. I mean, it was crazy, right? And now I can do it totally for free, and we can do this, and that's how we met, and we continue to do the show, and it's totally awesome, right? But I don't know. I guess everybody's always nostalgic about the stuff. But
like you're watching Saoirse grow through pictures and video.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's the beauty of it is like I've never actually had a chance to meet any of you, but I can kind of watch her, how she dresses up, and you guys are going to the Tesco's and how you do your thing. Like I get to kind of live, I get to kind of see somebody else's daughter.
Don't go to Tesco's. He's just pulled that one out because he knows Tesco's.
Yeah. So, but it's kind of cool. I mean, I get to kind of experience that, and I don't, and that's a situation that you can't really describe. But she's got these cute little outfits, and she got these little videos, and she's singing songs, and it's kind of like it's really pretty cool, and that's what I like about it. It makes now there's no boundaries to communication, right? You can get a hold of people anywhere, and now people are safer, right? Because now there's your Pixel has crash detection, right? And so there's an app, iPhone, right? So if you're in a crash and you can't talk and you can't make a phone call, it can call emergency services for you. These things can it makes life simple. But it also makes it safer. I mean, when I was a kid, the airbags and anti-lock brakes and, cars getting way better gas mileage than they used to, right? Now you have electrical vehicles, right? So you have an access to an electrical vehicle and all these other technologies. It's pretty crazy. I mean, it's cool, but I mean, we got to take our time and remember it's both halves, right? It's the technology, but it's still the communication part of it. It's still taking the time to meet us in person one day. We actually meet. Like I get to the UK. Yeah, I mean, it's a good gateway, but it's never the same as us. Right. Yeah. So you gotta do both, right? I think you should try to do both.
Like getting to see Chad in person was great.
Yeah. And then Peter hates to break it to me, but Simple Life is 21 years old. Oh shit. Really? God. Dude, I can't believe The Matrix is 25 years old. That was the movie you wanted to show people how a DVD worked. Remember that? That was the movie to show anybody how cool your DVD was as opposed to like a VHS. I mean, he's like, oh, you want to watch this? You don't have to rewind or nothing. You just go right to the spot. You're like, oh, it's cool, right? Yeah. And to notice that you made some good friendships online. But again, as me always being the other side of the coin, you now have more in acrimony between people completely based online. You have more arguments with people that you've never met. I haven't had that kind of fights with people I know that well. And I've had some, friendships, I mean, it's like mates at a pub, right?
Well, do you know what this is though? It's because people don't see any boundaries there. So, and they don't see a human being sometimes. So they just say whatever comes to their mind. And it can be sickening sometimes.
Yeah. Remember, like we said, just don't be a dick. Try to be excellent to each other.
Don't be a dick.
Speaking of don't be a dick and being excellent to each other, also don't forget to skin your shit. Extremeskins.co.uk. Yeah, do yourself a favor. Go on there, check them out. Let them know how much.
I've got to skin something now, and because I've got a crack in it.
Yeah. Well, now, like I said on the other podcast, now that you're like every other duo owner I know that's got a crack in the back end of the phone on the glass. It just, I don't know. It sucks, right? But anyway, but if you're in Joe's situation, right, well, you would normally get rid of the phone because now you're going to deal with it, right? No, you don't have to do that. You can go to extremeskins.co.uk, go on a Wednesday, get a buy one, get one, tell them we sent you, get yourself a skin, but it doesn't have to be. It could be a leather skin or a carbon fiber skin or the nice colorful ones they got. They got all sorts of colors.
You can go psychedelic. You've got a psychedelic one, haven't you?
You can go, yeah, it's pretty psychedelic. It's kind of like that. Looks pretty crazy, right? Again, I would love to get one for my Razor Plus, but they don't make it, which is fine. But I'm sure they have got your phone. I mean, most of the people in the chat have pretty normal phones. They got Pixels and iPhones, and they got also they also skin consoles, right? So you got PS5, you got an Xbox, headphones, all sorts of stuff, man. Check them out. They're really good. They've really been taking care of us, and we love them. And they've sent us stuff in the past, which is awesome. But I've also bought some from them as well. The last one took a little longer just because they had to come from the UK. It took a bit, but yeah, I mean, like I said, as you can tell, I still have it on my Duo because it's protecting the crack. The crack that's going from here to here.
35% off. So
there you go. Go check it out, and you don't even need a code or nothing, right? Skin your Game Gear. Probably not, but if you probably bought one, you could cut it to form. You can probably hand jam it in there.
They
be
do
creative.
laptops as well.
They do laptops as well. Yeah, iPads, all your phones. Again, that's what I had to do, right? Because because I had the crack from here. It's like here to here, all same thing. And I just got this, and
you can't see it through the skin, can you? It covers it properly. And
no, dude, you can't see anything. And it's like, and dude, look at the quality. I've had this on here for a year and a half. I mean, there's no scrapes on it. You don't have to worry about it. Like if you scratch it, it's not going to pull up the skin and kind of fold and look all janky.
Oh, they're durable.
Dude, they're durable as hell. Get you one. Like I said, it covers my Duo.
For your Sky Q box.
It can cover your Duo as well. Hey, there's Kia. How are you doing? I was on her stream last night. She had Eric on. It was cool. It was a good time. I kind of caught the back end of it, but hey,
she's a fellow Snapdragon insider as well.
That's right. We need to get her on the podcast. We talked to her earlier, but life got busy and things went crazy.
Yeah, I reached out to her before on Twix. Yeah, she's definitely up for it.
Yep, we should have her on. And absolutely, thanks for swinging on. I saw Eric was in the chat too. Thanks for coming by, Easy. Be sure you do it right before posting online. What does it make? Oh yeah. Because I'll rip a hole like they did Sam. Yeah, I know I screwed it up. Yeah, it's another thing too. If you do apply your skin and you do take a picture of it, and if you happen to be, misapplied it, you might have maybe ripped the 4 off on your PS4 and you put it on anyway, and you took a picture of it, they'll put you on blast. They're pretty good about that. They'll let you know that you're not very good.
What's funny about that, Sam, though, is they actually have application videos that you can watch beforehand.
I did, and I still screwed up because when I was trying to take it off, because what it is, when I was trying to take it off the template off the paper, I just ripped it right off. And I was like, the hell with it. So it wasn't because I didn't apply it right. I didn't even get it off the damn paper correctly because I'm a moron.
Oh, dear.
So whatever. You know what? Sometimes it's okay. I put it on there and then took a picture of it, and then they told me and they roasted me, which is fine. That's fair. But like Jimmy says, make sure you hydrate. Don't forget to hydrate.
Yeah, it's important, man.
Also, do yourself a favor if you got something nagging going on, right? If you got a medical thing going on, or you want to lose weight in the new year, or you want to go for a job appointment or whatever, if you want to try to do something that may require a little work, a little effort, but you think it's a good goal, go for it, man. Take some time and make a plan. Take a couple minutes of your day and try to get that thing done. You'd be surprised. We've come into 2024 now, and there's a lot of stuff in the world that kind of sucks. But, you can control one little thing in your life, if you want to have a better communication with your parents, or, you want to do better at work, or if you want to learn a new skill because you want to do something just for a hobby or fun, or start a podcast, start doing woodworking, anything you've been wanting to try to do. And if you got a little time, give it a shot. You might be surprised. You might still not be good at it, but that's okay. It's still a lot of fun. And try to do something for somebody else too. Don't forget to always take care of somebody else, strangers, family members, friends, community, coworkers. Do something right. Don't be an asshole.
Do you know what, something I'm working on, Sam, is circle of influence, right? Circle of influence. There's lots of things in this world you can't change. You can't do anything about it. So don't stress about that. Just stress about the things you can do.
Yeah.
Your circle of influence.
Right. And also just remember to stay hydrated, be excellent to each other, and continue to enjoy your tech and love those things. And, we'll look forward to it. Let's keep optimistic about AI. I think it might be pretty good. But we'll see how it goes. But it's a lot of going to be an interesting 2024 with phones and computers. We got the new Snapdragon chips coming out in our ARM processors and stuff like that. So might be a pretty good year. Got
Elite, baby.
No new pixels, new cameras, new microphones, new tech, software, hardware. It's cool, man. It's a good time to be alive. If you're a tech enthusiast, man, this is it. This is like.
But don't forget to touch grass.
But don't forget to touch grass. Just have a pint and fall into the grass. You still touch it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic.
There you go. Have a pint. Go to the pub, watch a football match, be with some mates, and have a good time. And with that, we'll sign off for the day. But thanks for swinging by. For all of you who decide to watch the stream, remember you can always download the podcast afterward. I got a little bad about posting it. I'll try to be a little better about that. So
doesn't matter.
That's okay. Like I said, it's not because it's not because I don't care about anybody. It's just because I can get bad about posting that. So I always try to make sure I get that up promptly for you all. And thanks a lot for swinging by and engaging us and coming in the chat, Jimmy and
we lovely people.
Everybody in the chat and Tuna. And come on through. And Kia, like I say, I'm going to hold you to it. Yes, we do need to have you come on, and we're going to try to reach out.
We do, because there's not enough great women in tech that we have on our show. So,
and I like her channel. I think she does a great job. And
Mhm.
Manos, we love you too, mate. And so, anyways, for myself and for Joe, this is the Nomad Tech Project for Sunday, the 18th of February. Thanks for swinging on by. Getting in, download the podcast on your favorite podcast aggregators. Check out the Bunch of Phonies. Check out Kia's channel. There's a bunch of other people that are on here, Tuna, and they do the Tech Disruptors. There's a lot of good content out there. That's the Nomad Tech Project. Make sure you don't forget that. But also, check out some stuff and get a well-rounded tech enthusiast and tech perspective. That's always good. And remember, Juan's podcast is tomorrow, 11 a.m. Central. So I guess that's 9 a.m. Eastern. So remember, don't forget his channel as well. Show some love. We'll catch you all later. Take care. See you next Sunday. Peace, everybody.